In this squad composition, we start things off with Captain Boomerang. We have a Captain Cold item that gives us increased affliction regeneration. Then, the Corrupted Weather Wizard Lucky Charm so that our traversal attack will remove the frozen effect from enemies and increase our next melee attack. For our other firearm, we have Golden Glider's Ribbon Projection so our counters make enemies take more damage, which can be paired with Corrupted Heatwave's Incendiary Charge. The idea is to counter enemies with Golden Glider, then prioritize those affected so that we can make our damage climb when at 30 combo. For the rest of the gear, we went with all the Reverse Flash gear currently available to us. A key ingredient is the Traversal mod that will make our traversal attack hits increase our critical hit damage. Combined with Corrupted Weather Wizard, whenever we use our traversal attack, we can instantly boost our melee and critical hit damage. These are very important for the two talents we build off from. Those two talents are Sucker Punch and Bonanza. Sucker Punch will take the damage of your last 5 critical hits and add it into your next melee hit, while Bonanza will take the damage of your last 3 melee hits and add it into your next firearm critical hit. In addition to this, we have Flat Out and Goin' Hunting, which increases our critical hit damage and make enemies take more damage from firearms after a successful melee hit. Then, Cheap Shot Boomerang will make critical reloads increase the damage of our next magazine, while Ultimate Speed Force Mambo increases our firearm and melee damage for each kill up to 150%. For combo generators, here are some options I like to choose. Third Time's a Charm and Circle of Life are both very good since we plan to use our melee and traversal attacks often. Finally, depending on your preference or need, you can choose between Haterade to increase shotgun damage, or Bleeding Edge if you want your critical counters to apply bleed for 200% of your last critical hit damage. One thing to note is that the damage may fluctuate depending on enemy debuffs, as well as your gear, talent effects, and those of your squad mates. Be careful though when fighting destroyers because of their self-destruction phase. When they move into the next health bar, don't melee them unless they're harvestable. Moving on to Harley Quinn, we have the Tier 2 Catwoman Infamy set, Cat Claws, which will make our traversal attacks apply deep wounds to enemies hit and make them harvestable. Then, our traversal is either Turtle Steel Force Conduit or Corrupted Steeljacket's Brittle Bones, depending on which you prefer for their respective damage boosts. Corrupted Black Mask's Posse for the increased melee damage up to 2500%, Corrupted Fiddler for increased damage to crazed enemies, and Corrupted Heatwave Incendiary Charge as per usual reasons. Our melee is the Two Faces Persuader so that we get the villain synergy, the True Face of Fury, which generates grenade ammo for every shield harvest we perform. Last but not least is the Tier 4 Bane pistol, because we need a hard-hitting pistol to complete this high damage melee. If you choose not to have enemies fight each other by using the Fiddler's Lucky Charm, you can swap that out and use the Riddler's Conundrum pistol instead for even more pistol damage and grenade synergy. Home Run Hitter will increase our melee damage, but give us an additional cooldown, but it's not triggered by shield harvests. If you don't like the cooldown, Untouchable is a good option because of the additional shield capacity. This is just a starting point because at 50 combo, we can choose between either Kiss Kiss Stab Stab or Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, depending on if you want more melee damage and shield capacity or more firearm and grenade damage. Now remember how our traversal attacks will make enemies shield harvestable? We have Drone in the Zone, which will give us 25% traversal resource for every shield harvest we do, creating an easy traversal attack loop perfect for Harley. Ultimate Thrill Ride will further increase our traversal attack damage, which is super helpful as it adds into our next melee damage. Now, this is where things get a little crazy, so really pay attention to this part here. Our starting point is 3 strikes, where hitting 3 enemies with melees increases the damage of our next melee hit by 300%. After these 3 melees are performed, we store and save the next melee hit until we build up enough power. This is where our grenades and traversal attacks can combine to add 50% of the damage from your last traversal attack with elasticity. Why we needed a hard-hitting pistol was because of Boom Bang Pow, which adds 300% of the damage from our last 3 pistol hits and add it into our next melee hit, further increasing our melee power potential. The last addition to the melee power is Quick Routine, which increases it by another 100% after a ground evade or slide. All of this combined can unleash a devastating melee hit that deserves an encore, which makes shield harvested enemies bleed for 50% of the damage dealt. Quickly changing pace to Deadshot, we have a reprise of Mrs. Freeze and Joker's loadouts from the last video by using the Tier 1 Catwoman set, Feline Grace, with a Two-Face Argumentum. Then, we have Dr. Poison's Affliction Attunement in the Lucky Charm slot, and this time a Tier 4 Scarecrow, so that our melee hits poison enemies as well as increase our shield capacity. The grenade, to no surprise, is the Corrupted Heatwave's Incendiary Charge, while our traversal mod is Professor Ivo's Traversal Matrix. This allows our traversal attacks to burn enemies and apply poison thanks to the Scarecrow Dr. Poison Synergy 2. For the melee, I chose the Reverse Flash Lightning Strike for its ability to burn and deal a percent of an enemy's health as damage to others. For his talents, we aim for increases to our firearm and critical hit damage, along with regenerating our traversal attacks quickly. We have Flame Out and Triple Shot as optional combo generators to ensure we maintain maximum combo. We plan to use our traversal attacks frequently, so we can regenerate it quickly thanks to Top Up and Refuel, possibly allowing us an instant recharge after each use. Then we have Bloodthirsty that makes critical hits cause enemies to bleed for 100% of the damage dealt. Following this, we have increases to our critical hit damage with Hollow Point, Eye of the Sniper, and Assault Rifle Specialist for an 85% increase to assault rifles. In addition to these, by staying in the air for long periods of time, it will allow us up to another 100% increase to firearms and 50% to critical hit damage with Hang Time and Pinnacle hits. Then, once we get to 40 and 50 combo, we can further increase our firearm damage by another 250% with Deadly Assassin and 100% more critical hit damage with I Never Miss. When combined with mutators like Expedited Exit from Duality or Scoundrels episode missions, this setup with Burn, Bleed, and Poison becomes quite effective once things get rolling. Onto Lawless with a bit of a reprise build as well, thanks to some interesting behaviors with her talents and the gear effects. We want 3 pieces of the Tier 3 Bane Infamy set, Bane's Fury, so that our traversal attacks will craze enemies hit, which combines with her verified talent that electrifies enemies hit. The traversal mod could be either Turtle Still Force or Corrupted Steeljacket, depending on your preference. The neck mod I went for this time was the Corrupted Jinx's Unpredictability effect, since we aim to constantly apply afflictions. Tier 3 Bane Lucky Charm and Firefly's Firestorm Grenade for its increased radius. The corrupted version will work fine too if you want more damage. Shield and traversal regen is what I chose for augments so that I can constantly stay on the move and keep using my traversal attack. We have Ratcatcher's Rat Pack for its ability to damage an enemy for 10% of their health. Then the Tier 3 Bane Sniper Rifle with added damage and critical hit augments. And finally, the Riddler's Conundrum Pistol for its damage potential against crazed enemies and the slow motion synergy. What is key here is the villain synergy with Bane and Riddler, Brainbuster, that will drop a live grenade at enemies' feet 7 seconds after they have been crazed. However, when the squad ultimate is activated, these 7 seconds become stretched out for as long as the ultimate is active. For example, it could take up to 30 seconds for it to activate, depending on how long your ultimate duration is. Now here comes the interesting behaviors with the talents and gear whenever we use her traversal attack and why we built around it. Live Feed and Verified will regenerate traversal resource whenever we electrify enemies and causes our traversal attacks to electrify enemies. When combined with a tier 3 Bane 3-piece bonus that crazes enemies hit by our traversal attacks, we find that we craze and electrify enemies, thus activating the Brainbuster synergy. Another way we can electrify enemies is by activating our squad ultimate with Ultimate Energizer and Like to Charge, which causes our next grenade to electrify enemies after we've been airborne for 6 seconds. Next up, depending on your preferred weapon and talent combination of choice, you have Pain Points for more pistol damage, or Stunner as another option to electrify enemies if you're using a sniper. Then, when we build up to a 50 combo, we can further increase our melee damage and cause our grenade hits to put enemies into slow motion, just like the Toyman Infamy set. Another helpful thing with our slow motion grenade synergy is going live, which will give critical kills a 35% chance to drop live grenades, and just like the movies, which increases firearm damage by 40% against enemies in slow motion. This is why I think the Riddler Conundrum Pistol or Sniper is very effective for Lawless based on these talent effects and how the traversal attacks can craze and electrify enemies while having a large radius or damage grenade to assist. Eventually, once you get an idea for how many grenades we can produce at once, you'll maybe see the potential for how this can be utilized and enhanced with different augments or different grenades. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and some of the ideas I showed. As always, these are just one of the many different ways to combine gear and talents for each of the characters. I know I may have been showing a bias towards the Corrupted Heatwave grenade, but it truly is one of my favorite grenades to use in the game because of its effects and for being a bounce grenade. Some of these will finish missions quickly, while some could be a bit longer, but just remember, the goal, as always, is to share some ideas on how to achieve certain results, whether it's high damage or fast time to kill, or focused around a certain damage type, weapon, or playstyle.